howdy. Welcome into Countdown to Kickoff, where we get you set for the action. Tonight's matchup, the Copperas Cove Bulldogs and the DeSoto Eagles in a 6A Division II by-district playoff game. I'm Kurtis Quillin alongside the coordinators of Bulldawg football, defensive coordinator Amaury Del Real, offensive coordinator Scott Schroeder. Gentlemen, appreciate you being here today.
Good to be here.
Coach Southern unavailable today, but that doesn't mean we can't preview the game. So let's start like we always do and do a quick rehash of last Friday night, or in this case, last Thursday night. I don't think the final score tells the story of what happened in that midway game. And I think y'all would agree with that, because for 2.5 quarters, that game was a shootout. And then it just seemed in the booth like maybe we ran out of gas, and then the program that's got a little bit more pedigree in recent years took over. Would y'all agree? Would y'all say that that's a fair evaluation?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. And it's something that, being year one in this program and understanding where we want to go, I think the longevity of things, sometimes, it's hard to navigate through it for especially for a lot of these guys that, especially, really all of them that haven't been in the situation where we're in now, where we're in it late, still trying to fight for things. So I think the longevity of it is a tough thing to manage for our guys. But I thought they, like you said, they fought hard and they really tried. And, Midway is just a little bit further along than we are at this point.
Coach Schroeder?
Yeah, I think so. We knew going in that it was obviously going to be a tough ball game. And so we were able to keep it close for a little while there by running the football. And that's when we talked about the game, that's what our goal was, is to try to keep their offense off the field and eat up some clock. And so we ended up rushing for 400 yards. But when we got too far behind, now you're in a situation where you got to make a decision. You start trying to throw the ball every down. Now you could eventually give them a tremendous amount of opportunities and could really get out of hand. So you got to try to keep chipping away with the run game, and that's tough, to score 50, 60 points just running the football. So we just stuck to the run, and it just tried to chip away, and it just kind of got a little bit lopsided, a little bit tilted in their favor. We just couldn't quite get it back in the game. But for a while, like you said, it was very competitive. Again, we did some good things both sides of the ball, but the pedigree comes into play, like you said. So
when you look at the program, because pedigree came into play, and I said this at the beginning of this conversation, but I don't think the final score told the whole story of that game because of the progress that's been made. What is, program-wise, the biggest difference between running out of gas in week 10 in a back-and-forth game versus being that program that is able to finish it off like that?
I think offensively, I think if you're just comparing programs, obviously, I'd say just the youth of it. Craig's a brand new starter. We have 2 sophomore wide receivers. O-line kind of hadn't played together to this point. Both running backs are juniors, so it's a little bit of size issue, but you can tell the level of football knowledge these other teams have, the amount of cohesion they have between receivers and quarterbacks, and they understand the game. They understand when to throw the ball, how to get open, find the open voids, just little things that come into play at that level. Their football knowledge is ahead of us right now.
Coach Del Real?
I definitely second that. I think for us on the defensive side, I think it's understanding situational football and what it means to, on a third down, how important it is to get off the field to give our offense another opportunity to get points. Right now I think the depth, we're lacking a little bit of that. Their size and just week in, week out, understanding how big the offensive line is in this district. Kudos to the programs. We have a lot of youth in those positions. We had some, like we talked about in other programs, the change of positions from some guys, and in week 10 of year one, the wear and tear kind of gets to you. But like I said, it's a lot of valuable lessons learned. The majority of our back end, the back seven, it's all first-time varsity football players for the majority. So it's a lot of learned lessons and valuable lessons that we'll build on as we move forward.
I want to give y'all a chance to talk about, because when you look at the record, you can see it. When you look at the play on the field on Friday night, you can see the growth that this team has made, this program has made since, Coach Southern was hired, late March. Y'all came in a couple weeks later. So you haven't had a ton of time, but you can see the growth that's there. But y'all are the ones in practice every single day who see it. And I've sat here in front of microphones talking about high school football in this great state for 10 years, but I'm not in practice with y'all every day. So I want to ask y'all, just how much has this program grown, and have the players grown since y'all first coached a workout with them in April before you ever put pads on for spring football to today, that has gotten this team back into the playoffs for the first time in 7 years, gotten them winning record for the first time in 6 years. There's so many first time since moments that this program has achieved this year that I think it's worth asking. And so I want to see just how much growth is there since April.
I would say it's growth in just how to handle structure, how to handle your day in and day out, the small things that matter, that a lot of people would say, oh, it's not a big deal, in the outside world. But those are things that I think mainly trying to build, it's a great football team, but in the process, building great men, that are going to be great husbands and, great fathers one day. Just giving them the structure of, you got to be here at this time, and holding them accountable. And in the summer, those workouts, they're not mandatory, but, they understand, and we know that they're important, and they need to be here to get better if they want to get better. So I think the biggest thing that I've seen is within all that time, and there's part of that time where our whole coaching staff was not here, but the leaps and bounds that we've made just from a football standpoint, understanding the game better. Yes, we're not where we need to be, but just having them understand, situational football, and, what offenses on our side of the ball, what offenses are trying to do when they do this versus that, line up like this, line up like that, has been awesome. And I think the guys that are fortunate enough to come back next year, I think they're excited for it, and obviously it's something to build off of, and it's a great foundation that we built.
Coach Schroeder?
That's a good question, but it's a hard question only because I don't know what it was like before. So when we come in, we have standards and expectations, and those are implemented right away. Now, I will say, to these kids' credits, they adhered to that, or they absorbed that, or bought into that very quickly. They were eager to do that. They trusted us from the beginning. So the growth in that aspect has been good. How to measure it, I don't know, but it's a hard question because as a football coach, kind of what Coach Dell said, I know there's still a long way to go. Still a lot of things that we got to build and grow on, but so it's a good question, hard question, but I think, I'm hoping that to the community and to the kids, they've seen a lot of growth, like you said. There are a lot of firsts here, and we're back where we should be every year, where we belong. That's in the playoffs.
You bring up the playoffs. It's a big thing. And, I used to ask a coach, so what do you do if you get here? And he goes, Kurtis, I'm going to tell you the same thing I tell my players. I block out every single game on the bracket with a poster board, except for the one we're playing in. And I tell them half those jokers are going to take care of themselves. What does that first playoff appearance mean when you're rebuilding a program? Something you've done. You went to Huntsville with Coach Southern and rebuilt that program, and you joined him shortly after. and we're a big part of building that up to a 2-time regional finalist program. So what does that first playoff berth on that journey mean for the program?
Well, it's another step in the process. Like you said, in Huntsville, we were there 11 years, and we only missed the playoffs 3 times, and it was a very similar situation to what we face here. So hopefully we can build that here too. But playoffs have to be the minimum standard. We have to have that expectation that that's where we're going to be every year. So then you have to kind of learn on how to play in the playoffs, and we really learned our lesson. I think I mentioned it one of the first shows we had. But one of our first good teams in Huntsville, we won the district, and we went and played a 4th seed Georgetown team, who on film I thought we were going to have no problem with. But the way they played every play, they understood, because they're there every year, the level of intensity that it picks up in the playoffs, how it's a win-or-go-home situation. So they just played extremely hard, and it was a good lesson for our kids and our coaches on what it takes. Because if you're in the playoffs every year, you're not ascending to that level. You get to that level, and then you're like, okay, what do we need to, what's our draw? What do we need to do? What's the weather? Things like that you can control. Building a program when you get to the playoffs, at least in Huntsville, and it's going to be that way everywhere, I think. For the first time, the kids' community, they kind of breathe a sigh of relief. They're like, oh, we made it. So there's a little bit of, we got to get over that hump where we understand this is where we're going to be every year. So, okay, let's get there. Now, how much do we have to improve and play harder and execute and what it takes? And you got to get there first, and then the draw and everything else comes into play. This year's draw, I don't care how good a Cove team you'd have to play DeSoto and Longview back-to-back would be very difficult on somebody. But so a lot of factors go into that, but we need to build to where that's our expectation, is we're there every year.
Kind of like the goal, the expectations, the district championship, the goals, the state championship mentality.
Yep. Yeah.
Coach Del Real.
I mean, I think Coach Schroeder kind of hit it on the head there. Us making the playoffs this year is a good first step. And that's a step that needs to be, consistent from here on till the end of time, really, if you think about it, because Cove's been there before. But it's a side, like I said, it's a side of relief for the community. But I think for the kids, I hope it's an eye-opening, we could do this. This is possible. And obviously the kids that got to go through it today or this year, and that are coming back, they have that feeling now of like, all right, now we know what it's like to get in. Now let's go make some noise, you know what I mean? So, and obviously thank you to the seniors that bought in, like Coach said, and got us to that point where we are now.
Up next, we'll start previewing tonight's game, the matchup, a bi-district playoff game between the Copperas Cove Bulldogs and the DeSoto Eagles. This is Countdown to Kickoff from Bulldawg Radio. Back on Countdown to Kickoff as we get you set for the action. Tonight's matchup, a 6A Division II bi-district playoff game between the Copperas Cove Bulldogs and the DeSoto Eagles. In this segment, we're going to break down the Bulldog offense against the Eagle defense. Kurtis Quillin joined by offensive coordinator Scott Schroeder. And Coach Schroeder, I think if I asked you to say what's on the film of DeSoto, your answer would be something along the lines of athletic and fast, because I think every coach who's ever played DeSoto ever has said the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. You can add big and strong too. So. No, but they're a different level. They're not only district contenders, they're state contenders every year, and they Division I athletes all over the field. So. A lot of speed, a lot of size up front, very athletic defensive backs. And the thing that impresses me, some of these real quote-unquote athletic teams, there's some out there, South Oak Cliff, we played in some, that, yeah, they're athletic, but they're very well coached too. I mean, these guys play with their hands real well, with technique. They play within their system. They don't get out of position. They read their keys. I mean, so not only are they well coached, you add that level of athleticism to it, it makes for a tough evening. What's
the thing that for a second-round matchup to be a reality? What's the thing that has to happen on the offensive side of the football?
Well, I mean, we're going to have to shock them a little bit and make some big plays if you can. I mean, they got so much makeup speed that's hard to do, but you're going to have to catch them flat-footed. You just never know. I mean, obviously, if they played their best game, it's going to be a tough matchup, but you hope. You never know. They're high school kids too. Do they come out flat? Are they looking ahead to Longview? Are they? We would have to play our best game individually, across the board, which would lead to our best game collectively. But we'd have to execute at an extremely high level. We'd have to be able to handle ups and downs because there's no way you're just going to go up and down the field on a team like this. So they're going to make plays. You'd have to find a way to scrap and stay in it, and find a way to make a big play when it mattered, but it's a tall task. It's going to be difficult, but that's what we'd have to probably do is execute at an extremely high level.
You mentioned earlier the run game, and then now you're talking about handling ups and downs, and so I want to ask, Caden Golden, I know you guys have seen him all season, but under the lights, he really kind of came out and shined against Midway and was a big part of some key drives that maybe didn't get the result that you wanted or that the team needed, but he was invaluable, it seemed, in that second half. How important is he going to be to the success of the offense, just in the fact that you can't rely on one or two people? It's got to be the 22 guys on your two deep, or the however many guys have a position on the offensive side. It's going to be a full team effort.
Yeah. Well, and the element that he added was just his speed. I mean, he hit the hole so hard, and you need that, like you're saying, you need that balance. But against an athletic team like that, you need a kid that's just going to take it and go. And whatever happens, happens. Whatever opens up. But you can't have any hesitation. You got to take it and go. So he does that. He adds that definitely. But that's probably more our fault. As part of this learning process is, like I've mentioned, putting kids in the right spot. And he was a receiver for us, a senior who I don't think played a lot last year. So we tried to see what he could do at receiver, and he played a little bit, but the strengths he has, the skills he has, he's better off just putting the ball in his hand and going. So probably should have had that a little bit earlier, and he would have made a nice addition to that backfield. But that's where he's good, and that's where, against these guys, if anything does happen, that's what it'll take, is just take the ball and run and just get what you can.
What are your conversations like? Because I know you guys talk all the time with Craig about, okay, it's a different, it's the same game. It's you got to level up this week. Yeah,
a lot with the quarterback is just unleashing it. Having that confidence. It's hard on kids sometimes to have that right mental makeup. As a quarterback, you got to be willing to accept mistakes, and that can be hard because in the outside world, as a quarterback, you're going to get blamed for everything. You're going to get the glory for everything also. So that can hamper young kids sometimes. They're afraid to make mistakes, and especially against these teams, windows are tight, coverage is tight. You got to be confident. You got to throw the ball and be willing to accept the result, and you got to let the game come to you and be aggressive.
When you look at what your offense does well, where do you feel the best opportunity is for you guys against DeSoto tonight?
Well, I'd say, we're still pretty good in the run game, so we've got to do some things to kind of misdirection and get them out of position a little bit. But anytime you run the ball well, if we can play action pass or screen, that helps them. So if we can do a little bit of that, that'd be great. We haven't been real good at that for a variety of reasons yet. Part of the growth process, but if we can just find a way to run the ball and get them a little angry, like, hey, they're not supposed to be competing with us. What's going on? Get them turning on it. Again, you never know how the game's going to go. You never know what their mindset is because they're high school kids. Who knows what they're listening to in their outside world too. So that's the best thing, is to get those kind of teams frustrated early.
All right. Up next, we'll flip it around. We'll talk Bulldog defense against the DeSoto offense. This is Countdown to Kickoff from Bulldog Radio.
He's looking downfield. He escapes, and he is throwing the ball. As he said, what a throw! It is
Got it!
It's
Touchdown!
Touchdown! Glass with the catch! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Back on Countdown to Kickoff as we get you set for the action. Tonight's matchup, a bi-district playoff matchup between the Copperas Cove Bulldogs and the DeSoto Eagles. In this segment, we're going to break down the Bulldog defense against the DeSoto offense. Kurtis Quillin alongside defensive coordinator Amaury Del Real. And Coach Del Real, same kind of thing. I mean, there's speed, there's strength, there's tall, there's they're just big, fast, and strong all the way across the field on all 22 positions. So what does that matchup look like defensively?
Well, I think we've played, teams that are athletic, Shoemaker, Clean, Ellison. They got speed everywhere on the field. So it's, kind of the same approach. You just got to run of the ball. And like Coach said, he mentioned it, and that's goes right into our defensive, game plan. You cannot hesitate. You got to go sell out. At this point, you need everything that you got. So anytime you're in a one-on-one situation in the open field, you got to go sell out. You cannot hesitate. You can't break down too early because, they got enough shake that, they can get upfield quickly. So, it's just a matter of, one, we got to fit the run well because they have big bodies just like teams that we've seen. They're athletic. They can move. They run the ball well. They have a running back that, he's really good back there. He's patient, and then when he sees the hole, he sticks his foot on the ground and goes vertical. So, got to fit the run well and run to the ball, and try to get them in some passing situations that they have to throw down the field a little bit more than just throw it out wide and give it to the athletes and go run.
How much of that is remember your base defense, your base assignments, the stuff that got you here? Remember that whenever you've got to defend a guy who's going to be catching at Alabama next year or wherever.
Right. No, it's very important, and that's really going back to the question that you asked earlier. That's what it takes at this point of the season. That when you get to the dance, you got to do the things that got you here, and you got to go back to the basics and understanding the defensive structure, where we need to fit on the run, and what my reads are, kind of what Coach was talking about that they do so well. At this point, everybody's good. So you cannot hesitate. You can't overthink things. You just see ball, get ball at this point. So, yeah, it's very important.
What is the thing defensively that if we're going to be talking next week, has to happen tonight?
Well, you got to limit their big plays, which is a tall task, obviously, because they got speed everywhere, as we spoke about. But, fitting the run will help on that, like we said, and try to get them to where they have to throw the ball down the field a little bit more, get them in some long yardage situations, because they do a good job of, breaking the big play on just little things that they'll, they'll run, and then they'll pop one. So, or throw the ball out there. Maybe he gets tackled the first time, they get 2-3 yards, and then they throw the same thing out there again, and then this time he'll break a tackle. So, you got to tackle well, and you got to try to limit them their big plays.
When you turn on the tape, and we talked about what has to go right and what that matchup looks like, but what is the biggest opportunity? And I ask this question every week because you know your defense's strengths, you know what you do well, and you two and Coach Southern watch more film than anyone else in this town. So what is the biggest opportunity for your defense tonight?
Well, I think we'll continue to rely on our defensive line and move them around a little bit and give them not give their offensive line an opportunity to just stay on us and drive us. We'll move around a little bit, so that'll be where we try to kind of put the emphasis on is try to get our defensive line to create some havoc at the first level, and hopefully, like we've been doing well all year, is run to the ball from the second level down and, make some plays.
When it comes down to it, you've got some guys who have really emerged as defensive stars for you this year, and some who may not show up in a box score. And so, who are those guys that you rely on as a defensive coordinator to be your quarterback whenever the other team has the ball?
Well, I think JoJo, and on the roster is Kenyon Donnell, but he's done so well for us. I think he understands the defensive structure. He understands where we need to line up, where we need to go, how we need to fit it. And him, obviously, I wish he's a guy that would come back, next year. But him being a senior, it took a lot of credit has to be given to him for buying in, as we talked about, buying in and trusting in what we were selling, basically. And I think he took it and ran with it, and he's done well. He started off the season with a little bit of an injury, but he's, for lack of a better term, sucked it up, and he's come out every week, and he's been a big player for us.
Up next, final keys to a Bulldog victory as we get set for kickoff. This is Countdown to Kickoff from Bulldog Radio.
He's looking downfield. He escapes, and he is throwing the ball. As he said, what a throw! It is
Got it!
It's
Touchdown!
Touchdown! Glass with the catch! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Back on Countdown to Kickoff as we are nearing game time between the DeSoto Eagles and the Copperas Cove Bulldogs in a 6A Division II by-district playoff game. Again, for all things Bulldog Athletics, visit the official home of CCISD Athletics at coveathletics.ccisd.com. All right, coaches, we'll start with you, Coach Schroeder. Your final keys, your final messages to your players before running out the tunnel for a Bulldog victory tonight.
Well, I think first of all is you're here. So you're playing probably, if you ask, one of the top 2 or 3 picks to win it all. So you have nothing to lose. Go play fast, play loose, have fun, and enjoy it. I mean, you're here, you made it. So play fast, play your best game that you have. Of course, we can't turn the ball over. You can't give them any extra possessions, but play each play hard. And we're going to have to learn that and see that and feel that. But like we've talked about, the level of intensity, the level of play that you need now at this point of the year is extremely high. So we'll play each play like it's your last, play each play like we need your best.
Coach Del Real?
Very similar, have fun, enjoy it. Like Coach said, you're here, you've done the work that needs to be required to get to this point, and, don't hesitate, sell out, and go 100 miles an hour.
Fellas, I appreciate your time. Good luck tonight. Hope to see you next week.
All right, thank you.
For offensive coordinator Scott Schroeder, defensive coordinator Amaury Del Real, producers Cole Witter and Matt Thompson, superintendent Dr. Brent Hawkins, and our absent athletic director Rodney Southern. He's at a meeting, y'all. That's why he's not available. I'm Kurtis Quillin saying thanks for joining us on Countdown to Kickoff. Up next, we'll send it up to the booth where Brian Hawkins, Ben Pettit, and the crew have you covered on the action.
Yeah.